Have you ever given someone everything and still felt like you were fighting for a seat at their table? Have you ever been the one who always showed up, always understood, always stayed, only to feel like you were slowly disappearing from their life? If you have, I need you to hear this because what you are about to learn might make you angry. It might make you sad, but if you stay with me until the very end of this video, it will also set you free. Here is the brutal truth that nobody talks about. The truth that keeps good people stuck in painful patterns. The truth that breaks hearts over and over again without ever being named. Sometimes the more available you are, the less you are worth to the wrong person. Let that land. Not because you are not enough, but because of how human psychology works. Because of how the human brain responds to certainty versus scarcity. Because of how the most painful relationship dynamic is actually not about love at all. It is about supply and demand at the most emotional level. Think about it. When someone knows that you will always be there no matter how little they give back, your presence stops being a gift. It becomes a background noise. It becomes something they assume will always exist. And when something feels permanent, the human brain stops fighting to protect it. It stops reaching for it. It stops chasing it. That is not a flaw in them. That is just how the brain is wired. But here is where it gets dangerous. Because while you are busy making yourself more and more available, trying to prove your love through presence, through patience, through endless effort, something else is happening inside you. You are slowly abandoning yourself. You are slowly trading your peace for their inconsistency. You are slowly convincing yourself that if you just give a little more, try a little harder, wait a little longer, things will finally change. But they do not. Because the dynamic you are trapped in was never built on effort. It was built on avoidance, and no amount of love you give can fix someone who is running from their own capacity to receive it. This is the truth nobody tells you. The more you show up without boundaries, the more you shrink yourself to fit into their life. The more you silence your own needs to keep the peace, the less they feel the weight of losing you. And when someone does not feel the risk of losing you, they do not fight to keep you. They do not reflect on your value. They do not wake up at night wondering what life would look like without you. They just keep taking what you give while you keep giving what they take. And this is not about them being a bad person. This is about a system that is broken, a dynamic that was never designed to work, a pattern that will drain you completely if you do not interrupt it. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You are thinking, but I love them. And maybe if I just love them harder, they will finally feel safe enough to open up. I hear you. I see you. And I want you to understand something deep in your chest, not just in your head. Love that requires you to erase yourself is not love. That is survival. That is a slow form of self-abandonment, disguised as devotion. And the longer you stay in it, the more disconnected you become from your own worth, your own needs, your own voice. You were not created to orbit someone's emotional unavailability. You were not created to earn basic consistency, like it is a prize you have to fight for every single day. You were created to be chosen, not collected, to be wanted, not tolerated. And I need you to understand something important before we continue. Everything I'm about to share with you in this video is not about manipulation. It is not about playing games. It is not about making someone feel lost just to get a reaction. It is about something much deeper than that. It is about reclaiming the energy you have been giving away for free. It is about stopping the cycle that has been quietly destroying your confidence. It is about understanding that your availability has a value, and when you hand it out like it costs nothing, the wrong people will treat it like it costs nothing. So if you are still here, if something inside you just woke up, if you feel that hunger rising, that readiness to stop shrinking and start standing, then do not go anywhere. Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what happens when you stop making yourself so available to the avoidant. Not as a trick, not as a manipulation tactic, but as an act of self-respect that changes everything, starting with you. Stay with me until the end. Because the shift you are about to learn is not just about one person or one relationship. It is about how you show up in every relationship you ever have for the rest of your life. And that is worth everything. Why do we keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result? Why do we send that extra message when there was no reply? Why do we give one more chance when every previous chance was wasted? Why do we show up one more time even when showing up has stopped meaning anything? The answer is simple, and it is going to hurt a little. We were taught that love means effort, that real love proves itself through persistence, through patience, through the willingness to stay when things get hard. And this is not entirely wrong. Commitment is beautiful, loyalty is rare, showing up for someone who truly sees you, who truly chooses you back. That is what love is supposed to look like. But here is where everything goes wrong. When you are dealing with someone who has an avoidant attachment style, every lesson you learned about love gets twisted. Every good quality you have becomes a vulnerability they can exploit without even meaning to, because your patience does not make them feel safe. Your endless availability does not make them want to come closer. Your consistent showing up does not awaken their love. Instead, it actually calms their fear. It gives them exactly what they need to stay comfortable in their distance. Think about that for a second. You think you are winning them over. You think your persistence is proof of your devotion. You think that if you just keep being the one who reaches out, who understands, who never walks away, eventually they will see how much you love them and match your energy. But what you are really doing is removing every reason they have to grow. When you are always there, they never have to learn how to reach out. When you never leave, they never have to face what losing you would feel like. When you absorb their silence without complaint, they never have to practice emotional vulnerability. Your constant effort is not teaching them how to love you. It is teaching them how to exist without you while still having access to you. And this is where the tragedy lives, because somewhere along the way your presence stopped feeling like something special. It started feeling like something guaranteed. And when someone believes you will always be there, your presence loses its power completely. This is not your fault. This is how human psychology works. When something becomes predictable, the brain stops registering it as valuable. When access becomes constant, the brain stops treating it as something worth pursuing. You are not competing with other people for their attention. You have already become so familiar, so reliable, so available that you have disappeared into the background of their life. And the worst part is that you probably do not even realize it is happening. You are so focused on what you are giving that you never stop to ask what it is costing you. You measure your love by how much you can handle, how much you can tolerate, how many difficult moments you can survive. You mistake exhaustion for devotion. You mistake silence for strength. You mistake staying in something that drains you as proof that you are a good person who truly loves. But I want you to ask yourself something right now. When was the last time you felt genuinely excited to hear from them? When was the last time their response made your whole day? When was the last time you felt chosen instead of tolerated? If those answers feel empty, that is because you have been running on fumes. You have been drawing from your own reserves to keep a relationship alive that only flows in one direction. And that is not sustainable. That is not love. That is slow erosion, wearing the mask of loyalty. Here is what nobody prepared you for. The person you have been trying so hard to reach is not struggling to love you because you have not tried hard enough. They are struggling because your availability has removed all urgency from their emotional growth. Your patience has taught them that they do not need to move toward you. Your consistency has convinced them that the distance they keep does not cost them anything. You are not falling short. You are standing too close. And in a moment, I am going to show you exactly what changes when you finally step back, when you stop pouring into a vessel that was never designed to hold what you are offering, when you reclaim the energy you have been giving away like it was infinite. But before I get there, I need you to understand one more thing, because this next piece is the one that most people miss entirely, and it is the piece that will change how you see the entire pattern. The problem was never that you loved too much. The problem was that you loved without conditions, without boundaries, without any signal that your love was valuable enough to protect. And the moment you understand that, everything begins to shift. So, do not go anywhere, because what comes next is going to rewire how you think about every relationship you have ever had and every relationship you will ever have in the future, and you deserve to hear it all. There is a pattern that almost everyone who loves an avoidant person has experienced. You feel distance building. You do not like it. So you reach out. You send a message. You ask if everything is okay. You try to close the gap that is forming between you. And what do? They pull back even further. So what do? You chase harder because you care, because you do not want to lose them, because you tell yourself that if you just try a little more, they will finally hear you. They will finally see how much you need them. But they do not. They never do. Instead, The more you chase, the more they retreat. And the more they retreat, the more desperate you feel. And the more desperate you feel, the harder you chase. And around it goes. This painful, exhausting loop that slowly breaks you down until you do not even recognize yourself anymore. This is the push-pull dynamic, and if you have been caught in it, I want you to know something right now. It is not your fault, but it is your responsibility to break it. Let me explain exactly what is happening inside their head, because once you understand the psychology behind this pattern, it will never feel as confusing again. When someone with avoidant attachment feels someone getting closer, something inside them does not register it as love. It registers it as pressure. It registers it as a threat to their independence. Their brain, wired from childhood experiences where closeness felt unsafe, goes into protection mode. And the primary way they protect themselves is by creating distance. Now, here's the part that destroys you emotionally. When you feel that distance, your instinct is to move closer. That is what love does. When someone we care about pulls away, we reach out. That is the natural response. But with an avoidant person, your natural loving response triggers their fear even more. Your pursuit makes them feel cornered. Your need makes them feel suffocated. Your emotional availability makes them feel like they are losing themselves. So they pull back harder. And that harder pull makes you panic. And that panic makes you reach out even more desperately. And the cycle just keeps accelerating. You call it confusion. You call it mixed signals. You call it complicated. But it is not complicated. It is simple. You are moving in opposite directions. Every time you step forward, they step back. Every time you try to hold on, they try to get away. And the more you try to force closeness, the more convinced they become that closeness is dangerous. This is what researchers who study attachment styles call a withdrawal demand pattern. One person demands more emotional connection. The other person withdraws from the pressure. That withdrawal triggers more demand. And round it goes until someone finally stops playing their part in the cycle. You have been playing your part. You have been the one who keeps reaching out, keeps asking, keeps trying, keeps believing that if you just find the right words, the right approach, the right moment, they will finally stop running. But they will not. Not because they do not love you, but because your love feels like a threat to their sense of self. Your emotional pursuit feels like a cage. And every time you chase them, every time you try to close the distance, you are actually pushing them further into the corner where they cannot breathe. The thing you have been doing to save the relationship is actually the thing keeping it sick. I know how hard that is to hear, because your intentions were always pure. Your heart was always in the right place. You were just trying to love someone the way you know how to love. But love without understanding is just effort in the wrong direction. And this is why the next section is so critical, because understanding why they pull away is only half the battle. The other half is understanding what you have been doing to yourself in the process, what you have been losing, who you have been becoming. Because this cycle does not just hurt your relationship, it starts eating away at the core of who you are. And that is the part nobody talks about. That is the damage that goes the deepest. That is what we are going to cover next. So if this is hitting you somewhere deep, if something just shifted in how you see everything, stay right here, because what comes next is going to expose the hidden cost of this pattern. And once you see it clearly, you will never unsee it. And that clarity is where your freedom begins. Now you see the pattern, you see the loop, you see how your love keeps pushing them further away instead of pulling them closer. But understanding that is only half the battle, because the other half, the deeper half, is understanding why. Why do they run when you reach? Why does your care feel like pressure to them? Why does your love make them want to escape instead of lean in? The answer lives in their childhood. It lives in a place they probably do not even remember. And once you see it clearly, you will stop taking their behavior so personally. And that shift will change everything. Here is what happened. When someone develops an avoidant attachment style, it almost always starts in childhood. It starts when their emotional needs were not met, when they reached out for comfort and it was not there, when they needed closeness and found only distance, when they cried and nobody came, when they showed vulnerability and it was dismissed, minimized, or ignored. Over time, a child learns to stop asking, stops reaching out, starts believing that depending on others is not safe, that emotional needs are weaknesses, that the only person you can truly count on is yourself. This is not a choice they made. It is a survival mechanism that formed before they were old enough to understand what was happening to them. And now, as an adult, when you come to them with your love, your needs, your desire for closeness, something inside them sounds an alarm. Not because they do not want to love you, but because your emotional availability is activating a wound that has been sitting inside them since childhood. They learned long ago that needing people leads to disappointment, that closeness leads to pain, that letting someone in means giving them the power to hurt you. And so their entire emotional system was built around one core principle: protect yourself, keep distance, never need anyone too much. This is what Shinryu experts call a deactivating strategy. It is how they shut down their attachment system. When it gets activated by someone getting too close, they do not even realize they are doing it. Most of the time, the moment they feel you wanting more from them, something automatically flips inside, and they start building walls without even knowing why they feel so uncomfortable. Research shows that avoidant individuals often do not even recognize when they are emotionally distressed. Their bodies and minds have learned to disconnect from feelings that were never safe to feel in the first place. So when you are standing there wanting emotional intimacy, they are not lying to you when they pull away. They are simply following a deep, unconscious program that says closeness equals danger. And here's the part that will break your heart and free you at the same time. They are not pulling away from you. They are pulling away from every person who gets close enough to threaten their carefully constructed emotional walls. You are not the problem. You are just the latest person who got close enough to trigger their fear. Think about how powerful that is. You have been breaking yourself apart trying to reach someone who is not even running from you specifically. You have been fighting against an invisible wall that has nothing to do with your worth, your effort, or your love. The Cleveland Clinic describes avoidant attachment as a style marked by a strong discomfort with emotions, a high need for independence, and a difficulty feeling close with other people. They do not hate love. They are not incapable of love. They are simply terrified of the vulnerability that real love requires. And every time you chase them harder, every time you demand more emotional presence, every time you try to break through their walls with sheer force of love, you are confirming their worst fear. That emotional closeness is dangerous, that needing someone leads to pain, that the walls they built were right all along. This is why your effort keeps failing. Not because your love is weak, but because your approach keeps hitting the exact button they are trying not to press. So what do you do with this information? You do not try to love them harder. You do not try to prove yourself more. You do not keep pushing against a wall that was built to protect something broken inside them. Instead, you do something completely different, something that most people never think to do, something that requires you to stop pouring into them and start looking at what this dynamic has been doing to you. Because the truth is, while you have been focused on fixing them, understanding them, reaching them, you have been disappearing. And that is what we are going to talk about in the next section: the hidden damage, the slow loss, who you have been becoming in all of this. And I promise you, once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it. Stay with me. This one matters.